Next on The Buzz, the new champion of monster movie makers and a little late Halloween fun. This week on The Buzz, disgruntled gargoyles on the loose in Manhattan. If you can't stick with his books, novelist Frederik Pohl has some advice. Vampires refuse to die, and so does a 25-year-old soap opera about a vampire. And Kenneth Branagh was driven to obsession by Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
It's alive.
Out of there. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sci-Fi Central. Mike Jarek here. Now, last week we were preempted. We all here at The Buzz wanted to show you our costumes that we wore over to the Halloween party at Bob Burns' house. Dave here. Of course, Dave is our super boy, isn't he? Isn't he something? And we got Hannah Lecter here. You better go stand by your Lecter stand. Oh, there you go. I'm not sure who this guy is. Kind of a cross between Dick Nixon and Dizzy Gillespie. Dizzy Dick or something like that, or Dick Gillespie. I'm not sure. Of course, I go as Godzilla because I'm concerned about old Godzilla. You know, he made his debut 40 years ago in 1954 when he's awakened from the bottom of the sea by U.S. military testing. You know, they're blowing nuclear bombs up down there. And then he started stomping on little miniature cities in these cheesy, campy movies, but we're so great. Well, now we're going to screw things up in Hollywood and make a $50 million remake of these old Japanese films. Is it going to be any good? I don't think so. In fact, Godzilla, can I call you Godzilla? Yeah? You better get a good Hollywood agent. You know, Mothra was nothing compared to the people out in Hollywood. Take care of yourself, please. Speaking of out with the old and in with the new, you know, the new Frankenstein looks remarkably like Robert De Niro, directed by Kenneth Branagh. Have you seen the movie yet? You should go see it. I think you'll like it.
It's not working. Try to stay calm, Henry. It's simply a matter of reducing the polarity between your body and the arm. A monkey's arm is basically the same as a human being.
Up to this point in his career, actor-director Kenneth Branagh has been known for small prestige films like Much Ado About Nothing. But Branagh yearned to do a big commercial flick. And he's finally gotten his chance with Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, the latest retelling of the Gothic chiller.
I think for the chance to defeat death and disease, to let everyone on this earth have the chance of life, sustained, healthy life.
Branagh both stars as Dr. Victor Frankenstein and directs the sweeping $50 million epic. The film was not only about a monster, but it was a monster to make.
2 years it's taken, really, from the arrival of the first script, working on that, long pre-production, a long shoot, long post-production, and some reshoots and things.
Unlike earlier movie versions of Frankenstein, Branagh has stayed faithful to the original novel, published in 1818. Writer Mary Shelley finished the book when she was just 19.
Well, I think she was exorcising some incredible haunted vision of life and death. Her own mother died giving birth to her. She lost her own kids in childbirth. She eloped with this married man when she was 16 who'd wooed her on the tombstone of her dead mother. They went off to Europe immediately with her half-sister, who he was having an affair with probably. They lived in an atmosphere of mad, passionate, incestuous, dangerous, arty nonsense, and at 19, 2 or 3 years into the marriage with this madman, she let it all come out.
Do you share my madness?
Victor Frankenstein is a man obsessed with creating a monster. And Kenneth says you have to be obsessed to create a monster-sized movie like this. We asked him if he could relate to Victor's mad compulsion.
Sure, and the sort of driven quality and the sort of inability to, you know, look either side of the tracks as he gets on with this thing.
In coming up with a look for the monster, which we aren't allowed to show you, Branagh became obsessed with detail and realism.
We talked to surgeons, we looked at these horrible books, the color history of facial reconstruction, which showed you how accident victims are patched back together again.
Unlike the classic Frankenstein movie monster with a bolt in the neck, shoulder pads, and orthopedic shoes, Branagh wanted a creature who looked like he was actually put together with parts from different people.
Because we wanted him to be born naked, it meant a complete suit of prosthetic makeup and months of testing for that, so that the color was right and the texture was right.
Branagh was equally meticulous about the film's elaborate costumes and sets. He created an entire Swiss town at Shepperton Studios in England. It's the biggest set ever constructed at a British studio. And the wealth of detail in Dr. Frankenstein's laboratory is stunning. Well, Kenneth Branagh was nearly as consumed with this project as Dr. Frankenstein was with his creation. Hopefully the results will be a little more successful than the doctor's handiwork. Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis get a great gig as Gargoyles, and one of hard science fiction's top authors, Frederik Pohl. Susan, I know you love your annual trip down to Comic-Con.
It's a blast.
Was it good again this year?
Every year is great.
Oh, now the buzz this year was about new Disney animated series called Gargoyles.
I think it's going to be a very successful show. They're gearing it towards adults and kids, and there's lots of goodies. Marvel comic book coming out, and a whole line of Kenner toys to look forward to.
There's a new kid on the animation block, and its name is Gargoyles. As Disney Animation's first ever dramatic TV series, a lot is riding on this show about 1,000-year-old stone creatures who are resurrected in modern-day New York City. And finding the right people for the gargantuan task of developing Gargoyles wasn't easy. Disney wisely recruited some of the creative minds behind Batman, the animated series, the dark fantasy from their cartoon competitors over at Warner Brothers Animation.
Disney started this thing out as a very funny adventure kind of thing, and it turned into this very dark and brooding thing, you know, with some very, very intense drama. And it's kind of like, you know, I have this big gargoyle standing over our shoulders saying, no, do it that way.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah, that's right, that's my character.
And when you've got a 7-foot-tall gargoyle looming over you,
You listen to him.
Yeah, you don't argue.
Batman alumni Frank Parr and Michael Reeves are well aware that comparisons will be made between the two shows. And while they're proud of their work on Batman, they were intent on giving Gargoyles a fresh new look of its own.
Whoa, we struggled with that one.
Because we wanted to have a distinctive look, and we knew it had to be dark because it took place at night, but we didn't want anybody to say, oh, it's Gotham City.
We didn't want it to say, well, you know, this is Batman.
No.
Trust me.
I don't believe this.
We wanted the backgrounds to look as real as we could get it, because it's like modern-day Manhattan, basically. In Batman, you had a very, very cool look to everything with the dark deco.
Very stylized.
In our show, it's, I mean, in a way, it's stylized, but it's a very rich look to it.
It's much more realistic.
Lending their vocal talents to the show are two bright and shiny stars from the Star Trek universe, Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis.
It wasn't that we said, oh, we've got to get John, we've got to get Marina because it's Star Trek. It was, they auditioned like everybody else, and it was just a question of who did the best job. And Marina just nailed Damona's.
We saved their lives and they repay us with contempt. They should bow to us.
I mean, she really is very, very good.
She's excellent in the role. And John really has such a sense of, you know, enjoyment of the role
He has
of
such fun with the kid. I mean, he relishes it.
You broke the spell of sleep that imprisoned us, Xanatos, and for that we are grateful. But we will never trust humans again.
I can tell this relationship is something we'll all have to work at. It's the next generation of Disney animation.
Disney is so enthusiastic about Gargoyles, they went ahead and ordered a second season of shows before the first episode of the first season ever aired. Reeves and Parr are simply thrilled to be a part of something that could be as big as, say, Batman.
I mean, working at Warner Brothers on Batman was great because, you know, you're working on an icon. I mean, there was this chance to, you know, embellish this legend that already existed. What's great about over here at Disney is that we're creating a legend. You know, with any luck, we're creating icons. We're in on the ground floor of something that could be just as big. And that's exciting in a completely different way.
Science fiction author Frederik Pohl is a living legend, and we don't use that term lightly. He's received every prestigious science fiction award that's possible to win. His published books, short stories, and poems number in the hundreds. Pohl's bountiful career also includes stints as an influential editor, a literary agent, even some dabbling in politics. Science fiction critics Robert Scholes and Eric Rabkin have called Pohl one of the few men to make a genuine impact on the science fiction field.
I think I've probably made an impact just because I've been around a long time and I've done a lot of different things. I was an editor and a writer and all those things. And I'm pretty sure that I can see traces of things that I've done in the present field. You know, writers I first published or persuaded to write and so on. And I think some of the material I've written has opened some new areas for other people. But then everybody does, to some degree or another. That's what science fiction is. It's a literature of innovation.
As a young lad hooked on science fiction, Pohl was determined to make his way as a writer, despite the fact that science fiction was still lowly regarded by the mainstream literati. He began writing at 12 and sold a poem to Amazing Stories a few years later. As his writing matured, an interest in sociology blended with futuristic views. The result was something that came to be called sociological science fiction.
And sociological science fiction, I suppose, discusses how people will behave under differing circumstances with a much larger world population, or after we've been invaded by Martians, or when the oceans have boiled up over the shore, and whatever else ecologically may happen. And I suppose that that is one of the kinds of science fiction that I do write best or most enjoy, because I like to think of what would happen to our institutions if our environment changed, physical environment, political environment, whatever. And I think that's what science fiction is good at. Handwriting gets worse and worse.
Given the intense nature of the subject matter, reading a Pohl book requires a bit more effort than the average fare. But this author has little pity for those who lack the confidence to read his work.
I do not have any degree. In fact, I'm a high school dropout, and if I can understand it, they can understand it. I don't avoid hard subjects when I write science fiction. And it is true that there are a number of readers who are lazy and do not want to try to think about anything hard, but they can find some other kind of science fiction to read.
When we re-energize, we'll scrutinize our Buzz Best Bets. The smash hit video game Double Dragon has just kickboxed its way onto the big screen. And we'll give you a glance on this week's Buzz Best Bets. The movie is set in the year 2007. The big one has finally hit Los Angeles, now called New Angeles, and things are basically out of control. A host of Hollywood's top visual effects houses contributed to the film's flashy, futuristic sequences. And Joseph and Paul Lombardi, the guys who wreaked havoc in Apocalypse Now, orchestrated Double Dragon's most explosive moments. The video game version of Double Dragon has pulled in more than 350 million buckaroos. So expectations are running a tad high with filmmakers. All we can say is, if you're a fan of the game, check out the movie. That's this week's Buzz Best Bet. When the Sci-Fi Channel invited me to the University of Pennsylvania campus, I was ready to mingle with the Ivy League elite. Imagine my surprise when I found the Rolling Stone Rock and Roll Bowl right in the middle of campus.
What band released the hit album Pretty Hate Machine in 1991? Red.
9 Inch Nails.
9 Inch Nails is absolutely correct.
The Rock and Roll Bowl is traveling to college campuses across the country this fall. From here, it moved on to the South. It finishes up in the Southwest and then California later this month. And the Sci-Fi Channel is actually part of this chaos.
Everybody, please come and take the Sci-Fi Challenge. Step right up to the table. Come on, UP students, Sci-Fi Challenge. Okay, identify the character and also the show that character is from.
This diversion from more scholarly activities takes place during the day. Students can stop in and join the fun between classes and during their lunch break.
When I was little, I watched all these sci-fi shows.
Yeah, do you watch the Sci-Fi Channel?
Sometimes.
What?
All the time.
I thought so. But the main event at the College Rock and Roll Bowl is a Super Jeopardy game. You also have Rock and Roll Jeopardy with a sci-fi category, right?
That's right. Sci-fi has its own category.
Okay. And a little bit tougher game, supposedly.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely challenging, but it's amazing that the students really do well in this event.
I can handle it. Oh, why not? It's just for fun. It's the Sci-Fi Channel's and Rolling Stone's Rock and Roll Bowl.
People in bands for 15 points. Who is the lead singer of Pearl Jam?
Engelbert Humperdinck.
Oh, no.
My team had trouble with some of the categories, but then we chose sci-fi, and we were on our way.
In what movie does the following line of dialogue appear? They're dead. They're all messed up.
Night of the Living Dead.
Yellow, that is absolutely correct. In Star Trek, where does a heading of 111 Mark 14 take you?
The neutral zone, right? Neutral zone!
Name John Carpenter's first film.
Dark Star. That's right.
Yeah.
Beautifully done.
You guys are killing me.
Give us something hard.
Something hard. What do the following stars all have in common? Art Carney, Joan Collins, Liberace, Vincent Price, Burgess Meredith, and Frank Gorshin.
They all appeared on Batman.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, when it comes to sci-fi anyway, I'm working on my PhD. A defunct daytime soap returns from the dead after this medley from Madison Avenue. And especially horror fans seem to never die. For instance, Dark Shadows. That show's been off the air, well, mainstream television for about 23 years. But twice a year on the East and West Coast, the faithful still get together to celebrate.
My name is Victoria Winters. There are no limits to the things some men will do.
After those immortal words were spoken on the first Dark Shadows episode back in June of 1966, a fire was ignited in the hearts of fans all over America. Years later, diehard enthusiasts stay close to the show by flocking to the annual Dark Shadows Halloween Festival in Los Angeles for more.
It was so different than anything anyone has ever seen, and it's supernatural. It's got, you know, mystery and intrigue and, you know, witches and ghosts and that, and Barnabas Collins was the very first vampire that you ever felt sorry for and liked.
Now open your eyes. Open them.
No, I used to actually rush home from school to watch it every day, yes, and I never missed an episode.
It's really well written for all its disparaging production values. It was really well written, and a good story is a good story.
Dark Shadows was an instant merchandising phenomenon. Everything from Barnabas Collins watches, complete with coffin case, to a Dark Shadows board game was, and often still is, available at a price.
I got this game for Christmas. It's either 69 or 70, I can't remember. But I used to play this with my brother, and years later my parents threw it away. And what I don't understand, and I still bug my parents about this, they kept Careers and Monopoly and all those ridiculous games that you can still get to this day, but they throw out Dark Shadows, which was a one-time thing. So 20 years later, I got to pay $35 for it. I'm going to charge my dad.
Dark Shadows has its fans, and then it has its fans. Marcy Robin and Kathleen Resch definitely fall into the latter category. Between the two, they started the festivals almost a decade ago, dutifully edit various fanzines, and basically keep fans very happy.
With the Festival of the Fanzines, I think it has always been that these have been done by fans for fans. You know, just we all know what we're interested in, and so we've been doing it for a long time, and people really can connect because we're not approaching it from some professional level. You know, we're all fans together.
I think that's a major part of any good constructive fandom is the positive sharing that people have, the way that they develop themselves friendship-wise, as well as just their own creative abilities.
The highlight of any Dark Shadows gathering is meeting the stars of the soap.
It won't come off. The blood.
There was never a show done like Dark Shadows. It had a combination of qualities that set it apart from anything else that was ever on TV. And even today, as camp as it seems, as silly as it sometimes seems, it still seems to grab a lot of people. They want to see it again. They love watching it. They love talking to each other about it.
According to actress Marie Wallace, Dark Shadows shows no signs of ever crawling into a coffin and disappearing.
The fans loved it to begin with. They keep bringing new people in. Their children come, their children's children. I always ask when I go on the line, the autograph line, you didn't watch this originally. You're only, what, 18? And they say, oh yeah, but my dad did. You know, and I think that's wonderful.
Before we leave you today, some news here. This just in. A recent poll says that people in their 20s have more faith in UFOs than they do in Social Security. Only 1 in 10 think they'll get their fair share of the retirement fund, but a whopping 46% in the survey said they believe there is some higher truth out there in the universe. We ought to email this information to all those cable systems across America that don't carry the Sci-Fi channel, huh? But you get the channel. Thank you for watching. See you next Sunday.
The mysteries of aliens, the magic of Houdini, the miracles of angels. Now the real stories. People and events are explained in a thrilling new series, Mysteries, Magic, and Miracles, hosted by Patrick McNee. Next.